Alright, this video is going to be some clips of my experience installing the MustangSteve cable clutch kit on my 68. This is a 68 coupe. Everything in it is new. I'm switching over from a 6-cylinder C4 automatic to a 289 T5. And this video isn't necessarily going to be like a step-by-step how-to, but it is going to be my experience installing this kit. As you can see, the seat is out. Would highly recommend that. Here are my pedals. Got all three of them in there. Well, except for the throttle. Throttle pedal's not in there. I just got to get a new one of those because it was all worn out. But everything is installed. The clutch is working. It still needs to be adjusted. The engine is not running yet, so I haven't been able to adjust the cable. It's just in there, it's, semi-tight until I get everything with the transmission all lined out, but that will be coming soon. So anyway, this is my experience with installing this clutch kit, and I want to make it clear that I'm not sure how many different ways there are to skin this cat, but this is the way that I did it, and hopefully along the way of my experience, there are some helpful tips or tricks, or it just allows you to kind of plan for your installation a little bit better, get a little bit of a look at what the process is like before you begin. So here we go. All right, MustangSteve cable clutch kit on a 68. I got the whole kit that includes the clutch pedal with the quadrant already welded on it. This is what I've done so far. By the way, if you are the machinist who's making these, just know that someone appreciates how smooth this is threaded. This is unbelievable. This is worth the price of admission alone. I could just spin this all day long. So this, okay. This is where I'm at. This is what I've done so far. Step one. Step one of cable clutch conversion 68. Take the engine out. I'm just kidding. That's just a byproduct. This is what I've done so far. The instructions say that this sits up against the apron, and it could just be my car. If I put it over here up against the apron, you can see that the bolt holes are not exactly where I've seen other ones, and that is in here and over here. So I'm not 100% sure if this would work. So what I have done, I took these bolts out and I held this block underneath here, approximately where these bolts would line up in here, which is, for me, quite a ways from right here. This is on the inner fender, right? And that would put the bolt like over here. And that doesn't feel right to me. So as in my preliminary investigation on where I'm going to put this, I held this where this bolt is even with that little swoop-de-doop there, stuck it under here, obviously without the bolts in there, so it was all the way up against the bottom of the lip of the cowl. While I was holding it there, used my metallic marker, stuck it right in the middle of this hole, centered it as much as I could, made a little dot there. Put a little punch in it, drilled a hole. Where is the hole? The hole is, let's see if we can see. Hole is right there. See the hole? Right here. Little hole. Okay. Stuck my flashlight in here. By the way, these icon lights are nice. Stuck my flashlight in here, aimed it, boop, right inside the hole. It's very bright. Trust me. Right at the hole. Okay. Inside here, I'm planning on being in here for a minute, so I took the seat out. Maybe save my back. Maybe make it worse. Who knows? But I'm going to be in here for a minute. Take a look up here. Can you see? Can you see the hole up there? Hello, hole right there. The hole I drilled up there. Let me, I'm gonna pause this. I'm gonna bring the light in here so you can see where that's at. Hang on. Okay, we're back. Got the light inside. So if I hold this, see if I can get this on the camera. Where you can see, okay, so right there on the edge of my light, you can see the hole. Just about 1 o'clock of this bolt right here, about 1 o'clock from there is that little hole. So you can see here, that is the bottom of the cowl. Yeah, mine's not in great shape, but it is what it is. So that's the bottom of the cowl. That's the area that needs to be dented. Either with hammer and anger, or a bottle jack, or however you want to do it to make room, basically directly in line with this bolt, because this goes away and this is where the clutch pedal goes. And the clutch pedal has a shaft built into it. And that shaft is what holds the brake pedal now, instead of this bolt. This bolt goes away and the new clutch pedal shaft is what holds the brake pedal in. And so I need to take these two bolts and their counterparts on the other side out, along with the ones closer to me up here, to take out this entire brake slash clutch pedal support, because it is my understanding that you cannot put the clutch pedal and brake into the car while this thing is bolted in here. She won't go. But on the plus side, that hole that I drilled, preliminary hole, I'm not super worried about it because it ends up turning into a 1/2-inch hole, I think, is relatively in line with this bolt. I don't know if you can see, but when you hold this, you can see back there, it's relatively in line with the edge of this bolt, which is where the clutch pedal is going to sit. And the quadrant that's on top of the clutch pedal is basically right in line with where that bolts into there. So we're off to a decent start. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to lay in here. I'm going to take off these 4 bolts on the firewall, loosen them at least, because 2 of them are holding the master cylinder. These ones right here next to the master cylinder. You got to pull this little pin here, see that little squiggly pin, and then the brake light switch to disconnect the brake pedal from the master cylinder, so you can take that out. And then I got to take this whole support out, and then this tab here on the side ends up getting cut and bent. This one right here that you can't see, you know, the little rectangle hole in it right here, that ends up getting cut and bent and becomes the stop for the clutch pedal. So if you get the whole kit that's got the pedal and everything in it, it comes with a pedal stop. And it's in the instructions how you bend that all up and install the clutch pedal stop in there. So I'll see if I can capture some video of this process. It doesn't seem super difficult, but just being in here, I mean, it's a tight space, and you're working around the steering shaft. You know, you might even be ahead if you just went ahead and took the whole shaft out, but I think it depends on what car you've got and what your situation's looking like. So I'm gonna leave mine in for now, my steering column, and we'll see how that works out, and we'll go from there. But looking forward to getting this clutch kit in here, hooking it up to a T5. So switching from a C4. There was a C4 and a 6-cylinder in this car, and we're switching it over to T5, later T5, and 289. So here's a little bit better view of the side of the brake pedal, the pin and the switch. So this pin right here is one that you pull out, and then the brake switch itself comes right off of this little pivot. This is the pivot that pushes the rod that goes into the master cylinder. So you just grab this with a little pair of pliers and pull it out of there. Actually, you can even do it if you have very strong fingers. Pin. Set that aside. Brake switch. And the master rod, if you can get them with one hand. I don't think I can. Okay, so you just pop that out of there like that. Here's the master. Here's the brake switch. Oh, nearly impossible to do with one hand. All right, now we got the switch off. You can see the shaft there, and then the rod for the master. And I do have both of the bolts for the master cylinder undone at the moment. Makes it a little bit easier to get off of there because you have this front piece and then also this back one. And this back one right here gets hung up on the little pivot right there until you can get the master cylinder rod all the way off of it. So put these out of the way, and then we'll try to get this support bracket out of here and get going on that one piece at a time. All right, I think I'm just going to take the pedal off. Make it a little bit easier to get the support out, and the pedal is held in here. Let me see if I can find it on the camera. Right there. See that little clippy? That little clippy right there is what's holding the pedal in. So I'm going to pull that out of there. Looks like it's one of those, you slide, you pry the top part up, and then you slide it towards you, and then it slips through the bottom part. So just do that, and then it'll come out super easily like, and then everything else will come out super easily, and then it'll all install super easily. And then just like that, super easily, you'll have a clutch pedal, cable clutch pedal. Why is there so much stuff under here laying on what may be my deathbed? I may never make it out of here, actually. Stuck in here for good. Laying underneath here. What is all this? What is all this? Also, when you're under here, don't touch this. Up here, that was a big mistake. I came under here and I was like, oh, I'll just touch this and see if it will fall into your mouth. And then you have to undo your bed that you made inside of your car. You have to undo your bed to clean it all up. Otherwise, you'd be rolling around in these crusties. And that's not good for morale. That's not good for morale at all. Rolling when you're under here, it's already bad. You're in pain. And then on top of it, rolling around in crusties, you don't want it. Okay? So just don't even look at this area. If there's some other rusty bits on your car, definitely don't look in this direction at all. And if you do happen to accidentally look up there, don't touch it. Do not touch it. All right, so here is the brake pedal pin. This is what actually holds the pedal into the support. You can see this little groove right here. That's how this clip goes in there. Like this, basically. And so when this is all the way down, you can see it slides in there. It's got a little taper on the slot. So you pry up the top here, this part, you lift up on it, and the whole thing slides off of the pin. And the pin is in there pretty good. It rides on these bushings. I use an extension and a hammer to drive the pin out from this side. It's up in there like this. And I used a 12-inch socket extension up in here to drive that pin out, and it comes out without too much of a fight. and then it falls on your face, so you got to watch out for that. It's a pretty robust pin, but the kit, the deluxe kit, the one that comes with the pedal, comes with new ones of these, the little pivot bushings, and they also sell, since you're taking all the pedal support out anyways, they sell a roller bearing kit that you can get that you use instead of these. I haven't decided if I want to put that in yet or not. But now, as soon as I pull that socket extension out of there, that pedal should fall, and then I can get that whole pedal support out of there, hopefully pretty easily. So let's see what happens. Here it is. Yep, easy. Put the pin back on it. Just gotta move the rod for the master out of the way a little bit, and then I got mine out on the passenger side of the steering column. So I'm gonna tackle the support bolts. The four firewall bolts are out. I need to take the front bolts out, and then I think I can roll the whole thing out the driver's side. So we'll see what happens. All right, couple things to watch out for if you don't have as much room as I have in here. On each side of the pedal support, there's these two screws right here. And there's one in the exact same spot on the other side. And on my car, they just go through the firewall coarse thread, and they don't do anything else. So maybe they're just to align this support from the inside of the car before you can get these other four bolts in. I'm not sure what those are for. The other one is inside of here. See right there, there's that little tiny screw right there. That's just holding up like a cable organizer. One of those little bent steel cable organizers. You gotta take that screw out. Otherwise you'll be fighting with all those wires. And then inside of here, you can kind of see these two screws, these two bolts, and that black bracket. So that black bracket is holding the steering column to the rest of the dash, basically. So you gotta undo this bolt, these two outside bolts, basically. You see this? There's three here. If I can get my light right. These three bolts. You gotta at least take off the two outside ones on each side. I don't know if you need to take off the center one yet. I'm hoping not, because I think that's gonna make my whole steering column hang, and I'm not sure that I want that. So, but otherwise, I don't think that you can undo these two bolts in here with the steering column, and it's in a pretty tight spot. They kind of slide in these little aluminum deals here and hold all that in there. So, but that's everything that's holding in that support. So I'm just gonna try to roll this out of here. Well, we were not cooperating from the bottom, so we're going at it from the top now. Took the gauge cluster out. Positive side, you can get to these three nuts up here now, so I might take those off. First, I'm gonna take off this little bracket right here. It is in the way. I cannot pick this up because this little bracket's in the way, and it's just a little, like a, I don't know, maybe a 5/16 or something. Little tiny guy right there. So I'm gonna pull that off. Maybe I'll pull that other one off down there. Really difficult to get to it from the bottom because of the wiper motor there. Luckily, you can kind of just tuck all those wires out of that little saddle, but I'm gonna undo this and see if I can get this off of there. Otherwise, I'm gonna take these three bolts, these three nuts off, and see if I can separate this pedal support from that little interior bracket and see if that helps us out. It is not 5/16, that little bolt right there. That little screw, that's a 1/4 inch head. Well, with that piece out of there, you can get this up, but if you look at these little wings here, on the other side of those three nuts, I think that it might be best to take that off. So I'm gonna set this back down and maybe put those two nuts back on these studs up through the steering column, and then Try to pull those 3 nuts off and see if this comes out a little bit easier. I'm gonna try it both ways, but we'll see. The 3 amigos up here are 1/2 inch. Well, in a dramatic turn of events, my steering column saddle just kind of popped off. So maybe it was stuck on there or something. And that made it a lot easier to get everything off. But basically, I left the 3 nuts on here. They are loosened. I left them on there, and I was able to just finagle this out of there with the master cylinder loose. I just moved the rod, and this popped out. So here's the part I need to modify for the clutch stop. And I need to modify the floor up there where the quadrant goes. But yeah, I'm happy that this is out now. So next part. Here we're fabbing up the clutch pedal stop. I had to move my little stopper from the outside hole to the middle one to get it to line up perfectly with the stop on the clutch pedal. So I'm gonna weld this up and then see if maybe we can start fitting it back into the car. I finished the brake pedals. Got the brake pedal cut. New pad on. Hope you ordered your new pad. You planned ahead, right? This is the old brake pedal pad right here. New pad, old pad. So, got my little manual pad. You can get the one with a little disc on it if you want. I just stuck with this one because it matches the other one. So, let's go. All right, here's the support modified. Got it painted. It's drying right now. That's why it's extra shiny. It's satin black. Got my slot put in there. Basically cut here, folded that little tab up that has that little slot in it. Filed the slot even larger, welded all around it, grind that down flat. And then I just test fit the stop inside of here. And when it doesn't even make it all the way to the top, and it's bottomed out nice and flat here on the bottom. And then at the bottom of this, it's got almost, a whole inch of stop play in it. So I guess my next thing to do is to put this by itself back into the car and do the measurement for the quadrant and the cowl floor and see how much I need to move that cowl floor up. Okay, so I've placed my modified pedal support back up in here, and I have made a mark on the bottom of the cowl. Can you see it? Can I see it? Where it needs to be modified. And here's my little jack setup. It's actually working really well. Got the smallest jack they sell at Harbor Freight, a little 4-ton. Got a socket. I think that's a 1 inch into an extension. And I'm just putting it on the floor, holding on to both with thick pair of gloves, welding gloves, and moving the floor up little by little. Much easier than trying to hammer it. I was in there with a ball peen, I was in there with a sledge. I was in there with some dollies. This is working way better. I think I got this jack for like 30 bucks. Probably come in handy for all kinds of stuff. A little tiny guy. Not super heavy at all. Even compared to the next one up from this, I think is the 8-ton, and it's like double the size, double the weight. So you can get this, you can get that big body kit, the hydraulic ram body kit. That's like $250. The Daytona one is like $360. The Pro one comes with all kinds of attachments though. It's got like little jaws. It's got all kinds of stuff. If you got cash to spend and you're gonna be straightening out a car, working on a car, it might not be bad to have something like that. This is working for me. I'm gonna keep going. All right, so I think I've got the floor moved enough out of the way. The cowl floor here. It's kind of hard to see on the video. but I moved it quite a ways. I'm hoping that I don't have to do it again. The instructions basically say that you kind of have to place this support in loose. I think so you can kind of tilt it to the side so it bolts to the firewall like this, right? And then they want you to put it in there loose so that you can, I think, tilt it to the side a little bit like this so that you can get the clutch shaft into this hole. Supposedly, because of the way that the floor of that cowl is, you can't, if this is bolted in solid, you can't get that clutch shaft in there. So I'm gonna try to fish this back up in there. You basically, this is one of the beasts of the job, but you take this upside down. This is how you get it back in there. And this is one of those things where you try to get it out and it seems like it's impossible to get this thing out of there. And so you try it 8 other ways and you can't get it, and then you go back and do it the first way, and then it just like it comes right out. So getting it back in, so far what I've been doing is putting it upside down like this, fishing it around like this up. So as you take it upside down, you take the front of it up into here, right? Under the dash, up into here. Oh, hang on, I can't see that. So you're upside down, right? Up under the dash like this. Try to do this one-handed. And then up over the steering shaft, the steering column, and into place. That's the easiest way, I think. I don't know if you can get it in any other way, but the key to getting it back in like that is to start with it upside down like this and swoop it up inside. So I'm going to get this kind of loosely in place. Those little coarse thread screws that go through these holes are really the only thing that you can do to kind of mock it and hold it in place, because these, the main bolts that hold it in, that are actually the ones that are supporting this piece, come in from the engine compartment. So obviously you can't hold this up against the firewall and put these in at the same time by yourself. So I think that's why they added these little coarse thread screws, just to hold this in place until you can go around and get these in. So I'm gonna try to set this up in there and see how that clutch pedal fits. One of the other things, when you're trying to get that out, I pulled up in here. So I've got this harness is held in by another coarse thread screw down here and over on this side. And the threads that protrude out of the back of this piece of stamped sheet metal can get in the way, because the front lip of this piece right here, these two holes, mount literally right here on this flat plate. And so when you're in there finagling this around, moving this support bracket around, the front lip of this right here, the top of this lip gets hung up on the threads of those little screws. And it can make it just makes it a little bit more difficult to move it around in here. So I pulled those 2 screws out. Made it a little bit easier. I've also got the headlight switch out. You really just need as much room underneath there as possible. Really the only thing left that I haven't taken out, I mean, you can leave the stuff on this side. The wiper motor is in the way over here, right there, right there. Wiper motor's in the way on this side, so you can't do anything on that side anyways. But yeah, I took the headlight switch out so that there's basically nothing back there. And really the only thing left that I could take out that would make this job any easier is to just unbolt the steering column at this point, which, I mean, it's the 4 bolts here, and then those pinches on the, like the rag, that fabric joint that goes into the steering box. And then this whole thing would come out, because the saddle that bolts the front of this is gone. So this whole column is just kind of in here loose at the moment. The only thing holding it in is the firewall bolts, and like the shaft itself. So you could take that out too, I guess, if you wanted to. There's the old headlight switch. There's the old pivot. Not going to use that anymore. This, I'm not sure yet how and when I'm going to put this piece back on. This is the piece that goes under here with these 3 bolts. That goes this way. But I unbolted these 3 bolts from the top. They got nuts on them. And I took this piece off to help get it out of there. So I'm not sure when I'm going to put that back in there, but that's another support for that saddle, that U-shaped saddle that holds the steering column in up to the dash. So it'll just be, it's kind of one of those like little finagly things, I guess. You stick it up in there and get to it when you can get to it. But I think that the key with this piece is going to be getting the clutch shaft in there at an angle, maybe even hang the brake pedal from it all at the same time. You know, as I'm going to put the clutch in, I'm going to make sure there's room for the quadrant and check out where the hole is that I need to drill for the actual cable to go through the firewall. And after that, I mean, that's everything for inside of the car. Everything else happens outside the car. So once I mock that up and figure out exactly where that hole needs to be, that little 1/2-inch hole, I can put the bushings into the support here. The deluxe kit comes with new bushings to go into here, and I can slide the clutch in halfway, put the brake pedal in the center, slide all that in there, and then I can bolt that back to the firewall because that part stays. Everything else is on the engine side, and then just attaching the cable to the clutch itself. So I think that the meat of the job is taking this out and modifying the floor of the cowl. That's probably the hardest part of this entire installation. And if you want it to be perfect, you got to put this piece in and take it out a bunch of times while using the clutch pedal to mock it all up. And putting this in and taking it out is not easy. I will tell you that right now. That's why I've got all this stuff taken out of here, because putting in and taking out the support is not easy. So I'm going to test fit that clutch pedal, and then I will update from there. All right, well, forgive the fan. We got the clutch hanging here in the bracket. I don't know if we can see that, the whole quadrant. And here you can see it hanging. I don't know if I can get it. You can maybe just barely see it. That hole that I drilled is just about 1/8 of an inch to the left of that scrape line. That's right there in the middle of that quadrant. So I think I'm going to take that little tiny hole that I made out there, which is like smaller than 1/16 of an inch. I think I'm going to drill it out to like 1/8 inch. Get a better idea of exactly where it needs to be lined up. You know, I'm not super worried if I have to make that hole a little bit larger or oblong, because I'm going to end up putting a grommet in it anyways. They call for a 1/2-inch hole, but all that needs to pass through it is the cable and the cable end, which is, I mean, it's small. It's probably even small. It's probably 1/4 inch actually, so they give you a little bit of extra room, but I don't mind if that hole has to be a little bit bigger. I just want to make sure that the way that this quadrant pulls on that cable, that there's no chance of it, you know, rubbing on the edge of that hole. So if I have to use a burr to make it bigger, I will, whatever. But I would like that billet block to line up with those holes in the cowl, those little dips in the stamping of the cowl, to make everything look nice. So it's just kind of testing it out from here. Once everything is kind of where you want it to be,
You put those bushings in, and the kit comes with a large hole washer and a cotter pin for the clutch shaft. There, you can put the brake pedal on it, and then you're done inside the car. So a little bit at a time. Here we go. So now I've taken my hole out to 3/16 of an inch, and I'm just threading in a piece of, they call it music wire, piano wire. This is an 1/8 inch piece of wire, and it just needs to lay inside of that quadrant like that. See if I can focus on it there. Back there. Yeah, right there. Anyway, this little piece of piano wire laying in the quadrant. Sticking through the firewall. There it is, kind of. Anyway, so now I can stick a level on there and see if that's pulling straight through. That's what you want to see. Is that pulling straight through? It looks way off here. It looks like it's going way down, but it's actually not. I'm going to find out my bubble level. All right, I'll see if I can show this with one hand here. I guess since there's no engine in the car, we'll level off of the rocker. And it looks like the edge of the bubble is right on that front line there. I don't know if you can see the edge of that bubble. It's right on this front line here. So, if I come back here to my wire, and I hold this flat right on it, let's see if I can stack it on there. I've got a magnet one as well I can try to find. Just so it's barely touching. Hard to do with one hand. I mean, the bubble, it's pretty sensitive to any movement. And that bubble looks like it's right in the right spot. So from there, what I want to do is move this in just a little bit. Make sure that's still in that quadrant. It is. Take my billet block, right? Set this down in here. See if I can get this one-handed. All right, so from straight down, I want the hole in this block to be lined up with this little cutout here. See that? Those are about the same. And when that's lined up like that, this piano wire is sticking out right in the middle of this hole. Make sure it's extra lined up best as I can here, right on the edge. Right in the middle of that hole. So my left to right, driver to passenger alignment is looking good. So now if I push this all the way back up against the firewall where it's going to sit, regardless of my left to right, because I know that's good. Let's take a look down here. You can see that it looks like my wire is about an 1/8 inch high in the hole. Forgive me for turning the camera. That's about what it looks like in real life. Let's see if we can see that right there. That's going straight back. So that's about an 1/8 inch high. So I need to drill my hole on the bottom of this opening. So I'll do my punch and drill out my 1/2 inch hole an 1/8 inch below this. And that should get everything lined up. Should. Should. We'll see. Like I said before, if I have to make that hole a little bit bigger, it is what it is. Here I'm just double checking my hole. You can see the threads. I got the block down there. You can see the threads of the block pretty much all the way around are centered, so I think that that's a good spot. And from straight down, my wire is still right in the middle of the adjuster there, so I think so far we're off to a good start. What I'll end up doing is, once this hole is drilled out all the way, I will measure the distance between the two holes here on the block. By the way, the block is 1 inch thick, and the center of the hole is exactly a 1/2 inch. So it's centered perfectly in this 1 inch block. But I'll measure the distance between these two holes here, and then I'll measure them on the cowl here and mark the spot for my second hole. That's how I did the first one. I measured the width of the block, and then I had my caliper. My caliper right now is set to 1/2 inch. And I measured how much the protrusion was underneath the lip here. And then I came in and measured it to here. And then I came in and measured it exactly to the center of the hole right here. So I'll do the same thing, measure from here to here on the block, and it should be good to go. The block is all the way up against the firewall, and they have, for this hole here in the back, there's an extra support bracket that goes to this closest booster hole right here. But I think as long as you have that billet block all the way up against the firewall down here, and you have these holes up here drilled in the right spot, I mean, that's going to be pretty robust in there. The only thing that's going to flex on that is the lip of this cowl. And it can only roll the bottom down as much as the firewall protrudes from the bottom of this block, which is less than half the block. So you would need a lot of leverage on this block to bend it forward and back. I will still try to fit that support bracket in there just because I've got it, so I may as well try to fit it in there. If it seems like it's not going to go in, or if it needs to bend more than 90 degrees, then I won't put it in. Okay, the inner hole is done. Everything is all the way up against the firewall. Hole goes in there perfectly. Your car may be different than this, but this is where my hole landed. The distance between these two holes, according to my micrometer, is 4.25 or 4¼ inch, which is going to put my second hole right here where this little scratch is, right on the corner of this tab. So that's looking like it might be a little bit tricky to drill out there. I'm going to start closer to the apron so that my bit doesn't fall off the edge of this. So I can get my pilot right here with a small bit and work my way up just like I did with the other hole. You really only need, what size is this? I mean, this is a little tiny one. I started with the even smaller one, but it was too small. This is an 1/8 inch bit. And with a hole that size, you can easily see where the threads are landing in this block. And if you need to punch in, out, left, right from where that is. So start small, check it every step of the way. Use a flashlight, you can see down in there. Just try to keep the threads centered. And when I put this in here, I've already screwed in the one side. I've bolted down just this one side. With that in there tight, with that bolt in there tight, just the one, this thing is solid. It sits up against the firewall, almost perfectly 90 degrees with the pinch on this cowl. It is in there tight. So I think that they probably give you this bracket to give you a little bit of leeway in case your holes aren't perfect and there's a little bit of space between this and the cowl, just to brace it a little bit and also keep it from like flexing. But if you can get this block all the way up against your firewall, it's in there tight. If you can get those holes set so that it's all the way up against the firewall, it's held in there very, very tightly. And I don't think that you would ever need anything behind it. It's not going to hurt anything, but I don't think that you would need it at all. So I'm going to start drilling this second hole, get this all set up in here, and then once that's in there, I'm going to use this hole. So once this is bolted in, I'm going to use this hole. I'm going to center it with a large marker and use that for drilling my final firewall hole down here. And it should be perfectly lined up with the quadrant. If it is, then I will unbolt the support from the firewall again. I will put the bushings in. I will put the brake pedal back in and the brake switch and bolt it in, put the master back in. Everything in the car then is ready to go. And I mean, this is pretty much done. All I have to do after that is modify the clutch cable a little bit. It's a factory cable. It's a factory Fox body cable from like an 80s Mustang. And the end on it, the end that comes on it, you just have to take like a little tab off of it. Basically, this is a factory piece, so you can get a replacement for this pretty much anywhere. But all you need is this white part. This This is part of the 90s Ford, and the instructions. It's in the instructions. You just pull this off, and all you use is this white part. And inside of here, I think there's 4 tabs, kind of like there's these 4 tabs on this side. These tabs. I think you're supposed to cut them off. They might be on this other side to keep this, whatever this thing is, centered. And this right here is the piece that gets caught in the clutch pedal quadrant, and that's what pulls your clutch in and out. So once that's done, that's pretty much it. It's done. Got to put my stop in, pedal stop. Job done. All right, I'm gonna keep going. Okay, so we have both holes in. This is where my second hole ended up, right on the edge of that tab. And you can see there's one. This bolt's in here tight. Look at this. Let me see if I can hold this. Here's all the flex. One bolt, right? I mean, that thing is in there solid. So on this one, because of the way that the washer falls on this flange right here, I'm going to mark it. I'm going to put a little slice right here. Give me a little pointer. I'm going to put a little slice right here in this flange and then knock it down flat. Because it's way in the way. There's no way. Slice it here. Leave this all nice and raised. This fits in here really nicely. I mean, really snug. Put a little bit of fresh seam sealer in there. Some of this old stuff is cracked anyways. It's right here. It's all hollow underneath there. But yeah, I'll cut this and hammer this bit down flat. It all drains out that hole right there anyway, so I know you guys are upside down. But we're almost done with this part, and then inside of here, let me see if I can get on camera. I'm gonna have to turn you vertical. Hang on. See if we can see in here. Hold this. I mean, that hole is really close to the center of this grommet, or of the adjuster here. Let me see if I can make it brighter. Really close.
So I think this is going to work out well. Okay, well, there's that. Needs a little bit of paint, but got both of those in there. There she is, billet block installed. And you gotta turn your head, but if I drop this down here, you can see we're right there in the middle. And that adjuster, so man, these threads are so smooth. Can't get over that, man. I love it. I love it. I love it. So, I'm gonna put a little bit of that sealer on there. Same as the rest of this stuff. Some more of that black sealer. Seal up this bare metal. And send it down in there. I think that I can take the whole thing off now. And I'm just gonna go with this hole here. And I'm gonna take it out to, I think it's the 1/2 inch. I'll have to consult my instructions. Yep, it's a 1/2 inch hole, so I will be drilling that with one of these step bits. This is my favorite thing for cutting a hole in sheet metal. It doesn't pull, you know, sometimes with a regular drill bit you'll be drilling and it sucks itself in and it yanks the sheet metal out. This just, on this edge, kind of just shaves the metal as it goes. Really, really nice. This is a Milwaukee one. I've had this one for a long time and it is still razor sharp. But I'm gonna drill that 1/2 inch hole with this, obviously not with the block in there. I'll take the block out, but right in that pilot hole, I'm gonna drill that 1/2 inch hole and just, that's gonna be where it's gonna be. And if I need to adjust it, I've got a whole box of grommets. It's not the end of the world if the hole's a little bit larger. Again, just as long as that cable is not riding on the jagged edge of that sheet metal, it's okay if your hole is a little bit bigger. So, hole is engaged. There she is. There's the hole. And I checked it on the inside with the light, and so far it lines up with the, you can almost even see, can you see that quadrant right there? And that's the edge of it. I lost it. Yeah, right there. So that's all in there together now. I need to go back in the car, pull the support bracket at least loose from these coarse threads, I think, so that I can, well, I need to put all that stuff back together. That little bracket that goes on there. So I got to finagle with all that stuff, but it's basic reassembly inside of there. Put the bushings in. I think that I can leave this one, this coarse thread screw, loose. Take this one out, tip the whole assembly, rotate it down this way so that I can get the brake and clutch pedal in with those bushings in there. Then put it back up into place. Use these two to hold it in while I come back here and send these guys back in, and then with the master cylinder back into those two holes. So reassembly, fiddling around with it, putting everything back the way that it was. And then I think once it's all back together, I can do the cable itself after the engine is in, because without anything to, so when that cable is in there, when this cable is installed in the car, we have this end right here is stuck in that little fork of the quadrant like this, right? And so when you actuate the pedal, it pulls this. And so that's what they give you that little zip tie for, is to hold this end inside the quadrant. What keeps all of this together, and especially this end in the quadrant, is the tension on this cable where this is installed on the clutch fork. So if you just put this in loose, dangling, and there's no clutch fork for this to
pull this tight, there's really nothing keeping this in the quadrant. You see what I'm saying? This right here, this end is the end that goes in the hole of the bell housing right here. So this opening is where the clutch fork goes. This hole right here is where that little end I just showed you goes. So the cable goes through here, and when you push the clutch pedal, obviously it pulls that cable back and forth. And that's how you get your clutch actuation with a cable clutch. But without tension on that fork, pushing on the diaphragm of the clutch inside of this bell housing, there's nothing to keep this in the clutch pedal quadrant. So I'll probably just put this in after, and maybe I'll try to pull this off of here as well. Probably can't do it one-handed, but this ring comes off right here. This ring comes off, and then this part right here where my thumbnail is rubber, and then these 4 points get ground down so that this end is smooth, just like this end. And that's what goes inside of the gold nut up here. It's actually gone because I took it out. That's what goes in the gold nut here. So this is your second point of adjustment. In and out. So you can tighten the cable by loosening this. As this comes out, it's going to tighten up your cable. And as you tighten this down, it's going to shorten your cable as well. So I think that the intention is you set this, and then as your cable stretches and wears a little bit, clutch wears in, you can adjust this to kind of fine tune it without having to crawl underneath the car. Ideally, this is where you do all your adjustment. But you can adjust it here without having to crawl underneath the car. Very cool. Automatic to manual transmission. I'm going to get the bushings. They're in here. Right in there, fresh bushings. And the brake pedal bushings I already checked them out. They're in pretty decent shape. So I'm going to reuse these and try to get that installed with the clutch in the support bracket inside the car. All right, I've got my pedal support back up in there. I got that little aluminum bracket bolted back onto it, those 3 bolts. I've only got one of the core screws in the side, in the passenger side, hoping that I can tilt it down a little bit to get the clutch and brake pedal in there at the same time with the brake switch and those bushings. So wish me luck. Well, here we are. Got the pedals hung, brake pedals hooked back up, got pressure there, hooked up to the master. This is obviously still just hanging here because there's no cable on it yet, but nice and smooth. Got it all hooked up with the bushings. I don't know if we can see down here. Got the whole quadrant, got the whole gang up in here. Got the brake switch back on. You can see him back there. Yeah, both bushings are in. Then the other side, it's in, you can't see, there's no way we could be able to see it. Too many wires and stuff in the way, but it's just the other end of the clutch pedal that has that shaft on it. Just has a little hole in the end for a cotter pin. So it's bushing on this side, bushing on the other side of the support. That large washer, large center washer that fits over that bushing nice and tight, and then put that cotter pin in and bend a leg. So there it all is. This is the bottom of the
steering column, the wire guide. It's just got a little spring right here, pops in. There's a little groove pops inside of there, 68 at least. So that's pretty much it. That's the whole kit installed. I wouldn't say it's easy, but I'm looking forward to having a cable clutch. And I really didn't want to do a hydraulic. You can see that quadrant right there. And I don't think you're going to be able to see the hole. Oh, there's the hole right there. Yeah. So you can see how the quadrant lines up with the hole. Almost perfectly. And then I'm going to put in like one of those, it looks like a rubber grommet. You can get them on Amazon. It looks like a rubber grommet, but it's got a solid center, like a thin piece of rubber that fills the grommet, so it doesn't have a hole in it, and you can poke your own hole. So I'll probably just do a real small hole in that and get the end of that cable through it, so that really all that the grommet is going to be touching is, you know, the braided cable itself. And then I'll put like some silicone on there or something like that. Seal that all up. Yeah. Anyways, I gotta put this back together, put the cluster back in, put my headlight switch back on, all the defrost controls over here, and put my seat back in. So I hope that this video helps somebody who is either installing or looking to install this cable clutch kit. I really can't wait to get mine in the car. It's over here waiting. There's my bell housing. That's where my little cable goes right there. So we'll see. Shouldn't be too long until I get everything in here and get it fired up. So see ya. All right, well, that's going to be it for now. There's a little sneak peek here of the engine that's now in the car. Got a radiator coming in the next couple of days. It's pretty much ready to fire, but I'm going to, I got the big block radiator, which is a little bit wider than the factory setup for the 289, unless you had AC. So the brackets and everything, I need to either make those or buy the big block ones for the 24-inch radiator. Maybe I'll do another video about that, but I do have some photos and videos of the process of putting this V8 in. So that I will be uploading hopefully pretty soon, as soon as I get this all buttoned up and fire up this engine. So thanks for watching, and I will see you again soon.